President Biden was asked if he felt a Taliban takeover was inevitable, he almost emphatically said no. He said that 75,000 odd Taliban fighters would not be able to take over the country. Today, when we see that the Taliban is at the outskirts of Kabul, they've almost taken over the entire country, how misplaced and, dare I say, even delusional was that thought?
Look, there was 50% good faith in it, but there was 50% not calculating for the future. Because the Taliban, as it stood about 2 months back, would not have been able to execute the kind of victories that we've seen. We have to accept the fact that there is a full-blown Pakistani invasion happening. It is not heavy equipment, but certainly in terms of signals intelligence, electronic intelligence, command and coordination under the Pakistan army, it is happening, number one. Number two, the huge mistake that the Americans did was they did not give the Afghans air power early on, and they did not give them sufficient air power. You know, even the planes that the Afghans are using right now, the maintenance contracts for those were given to contractors who never got paid and they've left. So the Afghan Air Force now doesn't have planes to sort of counter this. The third was the wishful thinking part, because, I wrote about this. When I was in Afghanistan, you just had to go about 30, 40 kilometers outside Herat, 20 kilometers outside Mazar-e-Sharif, 15 to 20 kilometers outside Kabul for Taliban checkpoints to start. So, when you say they're gaining hugely, remember they're only gaining by 15 to 20 kilometers in any case because the countryside was anyway controlled by the Taliban. Ghor and Ghazni have always been, because when I went to Ghor and Ghazni, they seemed to me to be Taliban-controlled cities. The fourth issue here is, the very fact that America has always, throughout this conflict, refused to exercise or tackle Pakistan. Even today, they are not applying pressure on Pakistan to stop its help. In fact, even last week, the Pakistan National Security Advisor Moeed Yusuf was in Washington, D.C. I don't know why it didn't get reported widely in the press, but he was. And he was holding talks out there. He was hosted. It was cordial. There was no pressure placed on the Pakistanis. So there is clearly some level of coordination, some level of incompetence, some level of delusion all at play out here. But we should also not absolve what the Afghans themselves did. Remember, this government, Ghani, Karzai, they were both extremely corrupt people. They had ghost soldiers where, each commander would inflate the number of troops and equipment just so that they would get extra funds and things like that. I think you've already seen that, Ghani's nephew, Sultan Ghani, lives in Dubai and he has his own private jet. And he's been jetting in and out of Kabul and things like that. So a lot of the money that was even earmarked for defense used to go into all these leaders' private slush funds and their relatives and things like that. So everybody is to blame out here.
Well, Abhijit, I want to take you up on what you said about Pakistan. But just before that, there were two words that you used. You said wishful thinking and good faith. Now, even as we're in this situation currently, there are talks going on at Doha. What could be the possible outcome of these talks? And do you think that, again, it's wishful thinking to say that anything you achieve in, during these talks, any assurances that the Taliban are giving you on paper, there is actually going to be implemented on ground? Because at the end of the day, this is the Taliban. There's no Taliban 2.0. There is no good Taliban.
Correct. Now, see, the good Taliban, bad Taliban formula, we should understand, was always used by the Americans for divide and rule. Because what had happened was, because the last time the Taliban had grown so centralized and powerful, the Pakistanis did not like that. So they siloized Taliban commanders. And would have been, had India also been on board, it would have been a fantastic way to get the Taliban to fight each other rather than fight the government. We never managed to do that. And the Americans also didn't manage to do that. That is a mistake. But in Doha, you see, I'm hearing three different versions. My contacts in the Taliban are giving me one version, the Americans are giving me one version, and the Pakistanis are giving me one version. The Pakistanis and the say that, we are only giving an encouraging hand. The Taliban in private seem to be very clear to me, saying that they are just playing for time till they take over the whole of Kabul. The Americans are telling me, oh, this is good. It's a good process. We're doing it so that, there can be a standstill right now. Our immediate goal is a ceasefire so that we can regroup and train our forces to counter the Taliban. The Taliban understand that. The Taliban aren't stupid. So everybody is trying to take the other person for a ride. The only issue is the only people being taken for a ride in Doha are the Americans.